Ancient Greece gave us democracy, philosophy, and the Olympic Games. But behind the white marble temples and the noble ideals lay a world of love, desire, and pleasure that would shock a modern audience. The Greeks did not see desire as a sin to be hidden away. To them, it was woven into religion, into art, and into everyday life, sometimes beautiful, sometimes scandalous, and almost always nothing like what we imagine today. So what was love and intimacy really like in ancient Greece? Welcome to History Nexus. To understand the Greeks, you first have to forget almost everything that later religions taught about shame. For the ancient Greeks, desire was not something dirty or forbidden. It was a natural force of the universe, as real and as powerful as the sea or the wind, and it had its own gods. They believed that attraction could be a divine gift or a divine curse, sent by the goddess of love herself to lift mortals to ecstasy or to drive them to ruin. You can see this openness everywhere in their world, painted onto their wine cups, carved into their temples, and sung in their poetry. But this freedom came with strict and unequal rules, and a man and a woman did not experience that world in remotely the same way. For most Greeks, marriage had very little to do with love. It was a practical contract between two families, arranged to produce legitimate children and to join households together. A bride was often just 14 or 15 years old, handed from her father to a husband who might be twice her age or more. Her world was the home. She managed the household, wove cloth, raised the children, and rarely left the inner rooms of the house. Love and passion were not expected to be the foundation of a marriage. They were a bonus, if they came at all. A respectable wife was valued not for her beauty or her wit, but for her silence, her loyalty, and the sons she could provide. But not every woman lived behind closed doors. There was another class of women who moved freely in the male world, the Hetairai. These were sophisticated companions, often beautifully educated in music, poetry, and conversation, skills that ordinary wives were never taught. A Hetairai could attend the all-male drinking parties, hold her own in debate with philosophers, manage her own money, and live with a freedom no respectable wife could dream of. The most famous of them all was Aspasia, the companion of the great statesman Pericles. She was so brilliant that the philosophers of Athens sought out her conversation, and some whispered that she helped shape the speeches that defined the golden age of the city itself. And there was one Greek city where women lived by entirely different rules. In Sparta, the warrior state, women were not hidden away at all. Spartan girls were fed well and trained in sport, in running, wrestling, and throwing the javelin, because the Spartans believed that strong mothers produced strong warrior sons. They married later than other Greek women, usually around 18, to men closer to their own age. They could own and inherit property, and over the centuries, Spartan women came to control a huge share of all the land in Sparta. Famously sharp-tongued, they were respected and even feared across Greece. When a foreign woman once asked a Spartan queen why Spartan women were the only women who could rule over men, the queen replied that it was because they were the only women who gave birth to real men. The setting where these worlds collided was the Symposium. After the business of the day was done, Greek men would gather for a private drinking party that was the very heart of their social life. Reclining on couches, they drank wine late into the night, mixed with water in a great bowl, and the evening flowed with poetry, music, philosophical debate, and laughter. Entertainers and companions kept the party alive, and as the wine took hold, the conversation could turn from the highest questions of philosophy to gossip, flirtation, and song. It was here, more than anywhere, that the famous ideas of Greek thinkers were argued, sharpened, and born. The Greeks also turned love into some of the most beautiful poetry the world has ever known, and no name shines brighter than Sappho. Living on the island of Lesbos around 600 years before Christ, Sappho wrote verses of love and longing so tender and so honest that the ancients ranked her among the greatest poets who ever lived, calling her the 10th muse. She wrote of desire as a sweet bitterness, an aching that could shake the body and steal the breath away, and her words still feel startlingly alive thousands of years later. So powerful was her legacy that her very home, the island of Lesbos, gave its name to a kind of love. Through Sappho, the private ache of the human heart became immortal art. And looming over all of it were the gods, who behaved with even less restraint than the mortals who worshiped them. Greek religion did not preach against desire. It celebrated it. Aphrodite, born from the sea foam, was the radiant goddess of love and beauty. Her son Eros struck both gods and men with arrows of helpless longing. And Zeus, the king of the gods himself, was famous above all for his endless love affairs, disguising himself again and again to seduce mortals and goddesses alike, to the constant fury of his wife Hera. Desire was so sacred that the Greeks placed carved symbols of fertility on their streets and in their festivals, honoring it openly as a force that brought life into the world. Nowhere was the Greek attitude clearer than in how they treated the human body. Where later cultures would cover and conceal, the Greeks celebrated. At the Olympic Games, the greatest athletes in the land competed completely nude, their trained bodies seen as a living tribute to the gods. The very word gymnasium comes from the Greek word for naked, and their sculptors chased a vision of physical perfection that still defines beauty today. When the artist Praxiteles carved the first life-size nude statue of Aphrodite, it caused a sensation across the Greek world. People traveled for days simply to stand before it. To the Greeks, the unclothed body was not a source of shame. It was a thing of pride, of art, and of the divine. Yet for all their sophistication, Greek society also held customs that we rightly find deeply troubling today, and it bound nearly everything in rigid hierarchies of age, gender, and status. The freedom of this world was never equal. It belonged above all to free adult men, while women, foreigners, and the enslaved lived under its rules without sharing in its liberties. The same culture that produced soaring ideals of beauty and love could also be, by our standards, profoundly unequal and harsh. To understand the Greeks honestly, we have to hold both of these truths at once. So what was love really like in ancient Greece? It was a world without our sense of sin, where desire was sacred, the body was celebrated, and the gods themselves were ruled by passion. But it was also a world of arranged marriages, secluded wives, and deep inequality, where freedom belonged only to a few. The Greeks looked at love and desire with open eyes, and what they created in their art, their myths, and their ideals of beauty would shape the Western imagination for the next 2,000 years. So tell me, what surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe to History Nexus, where history connects, and remember, to truly understand a people, you have to understand what they loved.